Hello, Sarah Nandapri. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Leo. Good to see you.
Great to see you. I felt like I was doing like that was like a call thing, wasn't it? Hello, Sarah Nandapri. That was a 90s right back at us right there, wasn't it?
I love it. I'm
What was
into
that?
it. I'm a 90s kid, so let's do
Yeah,
it.
true. Actually, yeah. Let's not let's not reveal our ages, actually. But that does. Do you remember those times when after school you would be calling your friend's house or the girl you were interested in? You had to like get through the parents. You were like, "Hi, Leo here.
Hi,
Can I
Mr.
speak to?"
and Mrs. Is so-and-so available? Can they
Yeah.
come on
Oh,
the plane?
I forget as well because you were brought up in the South in America, right? So it probably was hi, Mr. and Mrs. and very
Hi,
polite,
Mr.
right?
and Mrs. 100%. Yeah, and it was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, no, sir.
God, and the kids these days is just texting each other or Instagramming each other or Snapchatting. Who knows? Who knows how they communicate? Lucky devils. Okay, we've got off on a tangent there straight away. Let's try and get ourselves back on track. Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to the check-in. We are weeks away from the Short Stay Summit. And as you know, Sarah and myself are going to be hosting the main stage, which we're really excited about, aren't we, Sarah?
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Last year was so much fun. We were running around all day. I don't think I even ate. Maybe I think you let me eat and you didn't eat. So
Yeah, that is right, isn't it? Can I eat this year then? Can we switch?
you can
Flip
eat
that?
this year and I'll be fasting. It's fine.
Okay, perfect. Well, look, part of that, the lead up, we are doing a mini series focusing on some of the key industry companies that will be coming to the Short Stay Summit on April 22nd. As part of this mini series, we want to delve into their solutions in a greater detail. Also, get their opinion on where the industry is at and where it's heading and what they're most looking forward to about being in London for the event and what it is they love about the Short Stay Summit in general. So really exciting mini series. The first cab off the rank, the first episode is with Sarah's very own AirDNA, and we're delighted to be joined by Martha Wilson. So I hope you enjoy this episode as the first one of our Short Stay Summit mini series. Hello, everybody. I'm delighted today to be sorry, Sarah, you are very much here too. We are delighted today to be joined by our friend Martha Wilson, who heads up the property management team at AirDNA. Hi, Martha. How are you?
Hi, guys. Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's so lovely to have you on the show. We've been trying to get Martha on the show since day one, and we always will. Martha, for anyone who doesn't know, and surely everybody does, but for anyone who doesn't know, can you describe AirDNA and tell us what role it plays in the SDR ecosystem?
Yeah, of course. So AirDNA is a short-term rental data provider. I think historically we've been best known for like investors and people entering the short-term rental space. So where should they move into? How much money could they make? But I think in the last few years, we've really doubled down on supporting like operators and property managers across the full journey. So from when they get and invest in that property or acquire that property, all the way through from one listing to 500, 1,000 plus.
Okay, fantastic. And tell us, Martha, in recent years, AirDNA has grown massively. What new customer groups or use cases are you seeing emerging?
Yeah, so I think we've really, like I said, doubled down now on the property manager section. So we still work with investors, tourism boards, like financial institutions, but our core focus is property managers. I think one of the main reasons for that is Scott, who is our SVP of marketing. He started with us 2 years ago now, I think. And he actually used AirDNA to found his own property management company and grew it to 200 plus listings. So I think just having him in the room in those conversations has really like focused us on property managers and our roadmap that way. And then, yeah, we launched a product, property manager tool, last summer, which has seen massive demand.
Amazing. So this is, I was going to ask you about that. So what have you guys been working on new products, and what are you most excited about this year, Martha?
Yeah, so I think the property management tool has been huge for us. We did launch that last year. It kind of solves for the two use cases. So one being growth, so new markets, underperforming listings that they can acquire, proving the property manager that they're the best one to go for. And then the second kind of work stream we help with is retention, which I think is arguably the hardest part for property managers. So just keeping those owners happy, like revenue optimization, communication, that kind of thing. So that was all last year in 2025. And then this year, what am I excited about? So We've got 2 new PM tool enhancements coming. One of them is contact details, which is super exciting. So, disclaimer, this is in the US first, but hopefully it goes well and we can expand it. But it's essentially going to let property managers get the emails, phone numbers of owner contacts and be able to reach out. So that's huge. Second one, we've got a lot of stuff with AI. I think we're going to touch on that later in the conversation, but just making the insights we already have actionable. And then we have a third one, which I could describe it as really helping in the, Sarah's laughing because she knows that I'll be murdered if I say too much, but something we're working on, which is going to help day to day, which is coming in H2. But yeah, I've been sworn to secrecy on that.
Well, look, it's good to know that AirDNA are actively murdering people for breaking secrets. So that's good. We've all learned something there. We have learned something about the inner workings of AirDNA. That's wonderful. What I like about it is...
Accident, Leo. It would always look like an accident.
If you never see me again, I did say too much.
Martha's one and only podcast appearance. What I like about this, the focus at AirDNA, is that and you've said it here in some of what you've said to begin with, but you're really trying to get into the mindset of a property manager, right? You're like, look, we've got this data, we've got access to this data. How do we apply it to the day-to-day of the business? And I think that is the secret to the success, right? Because it's one thing to have the information, it's a whole other thing to be able to use it in meaningful ways, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what 2026 is going to be about, is making it super actionable. Rather than, like you said, just reporting on like, okay, this is what's happened, but okay, great, what do I do with that? Is the next step, and that's what we're focusing on.
I think that makes perfect sense. And also, 2025 for AirDNA, for anybody who doesn't know, I actually work at AirDNA. I've been here for 9 years, so Martha and I work really closely together. We're on the same team. And 2025 for us really was focused on data accuracy and making sure that our data was as accurate as possible before doubling down on a lot more of these product related things. So tell us a little bit more about some of the changes there and kind of what's gone on behind the scenes.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, accuracy is definitely at our core. I mean, if all the data's wrong, it doesn't matter what we build. It's going to be wrong. So we use a combination of scraping, and then we have data partnerships as well. I think we have over 1.5 million properties on that. 2 major updates we've done more recently. One of them is better detection of mid and long-term stays. So our algorithm, when we built it, was definitely not built for that. It was built for your traditional short-term rental, but with the increase in regulations, I think it's more and more important. So that's something we're way better at now. The other thing is we've used AI to help with our matching algorithm. So that essentially means all of properties over the different OTAs, making sure that we're just reporting on one property, which has really increased our accuracy. But I would say it's definitely, those are 2 updates we've done, but it's something, I mean, we have a team of like 35 engineers and data scientists. There's a lot of them, and this is their full-time job, and they're doing this day in, day out, and always updating little things, but those are the 2 main ones.
Fantastic. Well, let's bring it on to why AirDNA continues to be actively involved and supports the Short Stay Summit. So why is the Short Stay Summit in London an important event for AirDNA?
Yeah, I think for us it's our flagship is what I'm trying to say. Flagship European event for sure. We go every year. We always send a big team. Our team this year, I think, is all of our ELT seem to have made it. And I think for a few reasons. First one, being people, I would say. And what I mean by that is just having the right people in the room. So the decision makers, whether that's like policy leaders. I think Sarah was telling me last year you had a few MPs in the room, which is great. Industry leaders, operators, and it's just a good mix of everyone. I think sometimes you can feel it's very like vendor heavy. But yeah, I think so. The people that Andy and the whole organization managed to get there is great. And then the second thing is the format. So obviously you have the main stage and the talks, they're always great. But I think the learning labs and what we spoke about earlier, Leo, of like how to actually then use all these different insights to make a decision, they're really great as well.
Thanks for picking up on that, Martha, because I think that is really important, the learning labs, and also your point on getting policy makers in the room. So, I think one thing that Sarah and I picked up on last year was how it was a inclusive conversation with the wider community, and there's no point having an us v them mentality. Far from it. You need to be working in coordination with people. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely a broad tent, the Short Stay Summit, in terms of people that come in. But, you know, right down to people just having one listing that might be getting into hosting and trying to learn how to scale and grow. In particular, are there any conversations or people you're looking forward to meeting at the summit, Martha?
Yeah, I think meeting any of our clients, right? Whether they're prospective clients, already clients with one listing or 1,000 listing, I think I'm happy to meet all of them. I think for us, it's really good to do like a pulse check on what we're building. Like, we can all sit in a room at AirDNA and be like, oh, this is so cool. We're so excited to launch this. But if I speak to like Leo or his property management company in Brighton, unless it actually helps his day-to-day and he's excited, it doesn't make sense. So I think it's also a lot of what we'll be doing is like pressure testing all of these cool things we're building with the PMs and making sure it makes a difference.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting for you to say that, because I know a lot of companies that are startups and very, very new. It's all about new customer acquisition. For you guys, you know, you're probably working with a lot of that room already. So it is more about having those touch points and making sure you're building what they want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Now let's get on to my favorite part. Let's get into some data. So tell us, I guess we'd love to get kind of an overview. I think I'd like to dive deeper, first and foremost, into demand and kind of what the demand trends are for 2026 and maybe how that's changed over time.
Yeah, of course. So I think if we start on a global level, post-pandemic, they're like, anything goes, let's grow at any cost, has definitely calmed down. So across both US and Europe, supply has shifted from that like double-digit growth to just more controlled and measured growth. In the US specifically, supply is expected to pick back up again in 2026. So I think it was a slower year, 2025, so I think it was down around 2%. But it's looking to be back up at plus 5% in 2026. And I think that's a combination of like stabilizing economy, like home prices, mortgage rates. And then one thing that's obviously happening in the US this year is the World Cup, which is going to be huge for demand. I was looking at one of the charts and I think it's for one match, it's up 2,500% demand, which is crazy. But I think the key question there is actually going to be whether that supply sticks around in the platforms or whether it just churns back out. And then in general, like trends we're seeing across the globe, shoulder seasons are definitely doing more of the like heavy lifting and coming into play, which is great if you can capture that because it makes it a lot more stable. But obviously then you have to plan operationally to be able to handle a full season versus just a summer or winter season as well.
Yeah, makes sense. And as the summit tends to attract a lot of UK visitors, as it's hosted in London, tell us a little bit more about UK specific trends and maybe how they're differing from what's happening globally.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of growth in the UK outside of your standard leisure market, so the ones you hear a lot about. There's a lot of supply growth in Manchester, like Nottingham, Aberdeen, Belfast. That's all up between 10 and 12% year over year. And I think what's interesting about those markets is they have a lot of the shoulder season, right? They have multiple demand drivers. You can go there for work, you can go there for an event, they've got universities, so they kind of keep it going all year round. I wouldn't say it's a dramatic drop, just to not scare anyone. There's a little bit of cooling off in the leisure regions, which is like Southwest Wales, Devon, Dorset, but you're only looking at a drop of around 2% or so. So there's definitely still supply, there's still demand. It's just a little bit more evenly spread than just focused on those leisure markets.
Awesome. Thanks, Martha. I know one of my favorite topics, and I think Leo too, we've done a lot of talking about this on the podcast, is AI. I think there's absolutely no doubt. We couldn't get out of this episode without talking about it, Martha. I know. But
I
there's
think
no
any
doubt
podcast episode cannot mention AI, no matter the industry, no matter the sector, AI will come up.
Yeah, and obviously, like, it's something that's definitely going to reshape our industry. So super, super curious to hear some of the potential AI updates, and how AirDNA is using that to update and improve forecasting and the quality of the data and or products and usability.
Yeah, so I think we're using it in AirDNA in two different ways. One of them is what you just mentioned about our data accuracy. So a lot of those 35 data scientists I mentioned are doing a lot of things behind the scenes. Things like cleaning it, like matching algorithms, spotting outliers. So that's one side, and that's all the main goal there is to increase our accuracy. And then the second part is what Leo mentioned earlier about making the data super actionable. And it's great to have these insights, but making them, you be able to make decisions from there. So our core product, well, one of our core products, which is the Rentalizer, which essentially allows you to put in any address and get a pro forma on that. It's going to have a few updates. So we're going to be saying why we chose those specific comps. Something I think is really cool is you're going to be able to ask it live questions, drawing it, and then get an updated projection based on that. It's going to layer in regulation stuff. If I decided to do a home improvement, how would this impact the bottom line? So yeah, I think that's going to be really cool, and that's coming in the next few weeks, I think.
So you've not been sworn to secrecy on that one, Martha.
I know, I was scared. I don't know if you could hear the fear
Good.
in my voice as I said that. I think 2 weeks, please don't quote me.
Very interesting, isn't it? And all of this stuff makes me think that one of the most useful things for operators now is making better decisions when it comes to expansion and growth. Because they are, I mean, Martha, tell me if you think this is right, but it's the number one question for a lot of operators, right? When they're investing in data, is like, how's this going to help me grow and expand into new markets and make the right decisions? So I guess you've already said it here, but you must feel like AI is really helping people with expansion.
Yeah, definitely. I think majority of the conversations I have is about growth, and anything they can do to make that more streamlined, easier. I think they're going to use AI for that. And all of those decisions. And I also think actually, like, in the ecosystem, right? Like in the PMSs, the pricing tools, it's going in everywhere, with the goal to make faster decisions.
On that, on the more the guest side of it, do you think AI agents will shift how guests book stays, and what do you think that means for operators?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know myself, I haven't booked a trip without using AI in the last 6 months to a year. So I think it probably already is. I know like Airbnb are talking about their travel concierge, but I think even before that, guests are using it. In terms of what it means for operators, I think they just really need to know like what their differentiation is. Like have really compelling descriptions, be able to talk to their demand drivers. So if I'm using AI to compare listings, it's going to come up to the top. So yeah, I think they really need to understand their market and their listings and why someone should choose them.
Yeah. What are some of the other things that are going to separate in kind of this new frontier operators who are really thriving versus those that are struggling to survive and may not survive?
Yeah, I think you're going to be unsurprised that I'm going to say those using data. Shocking. But I think, like I said, right, knowing the competitive landscape, understanding their demand drivers if they want to be able to compete in the AI landscape. But I think more importantly than that is turning insights into making a decision. I think we can say that even some of our own clients have looked at a lot of the data we offer them and think, this is really cool. But whether in the past they've then used that to make a decision, I think there's always been a gap there. So I think it's the ones who are really willing to be like, okay, and on this, I'm going to make a really quick and be adaptable decision. I think that will separate them as well.
Yeah, and again, I like this. It comes back to the summit, right? And another reason why you're there is to listen to customers to ensure you are providing them the right insights, or the most useful insights, essentially. Again, it's a moving target, isn't it? Because things change the whole time. We go back to something like the World Cup, right? You could look at that very, very quickly and go, great, I'm going to put the 2026 projections for Kansas for the next 5 years, and you're going to be sorely disappointed, right? Now, I'm sure there'll be other reasons why people want to go to Kansas, but there might not be. This is once in a generation, isn't it? So I think it's incredibly interesting how you use the data. Tell us, what metrics should operators be paying more attention to, do you think?
More attention. So outside of the standard ones, I think the booking lead time. So one of the things that we saw coming out of the data in like guest behavior is there's a massive polarization in terms of when people are booking. So you have like people who are booking for tomorrow, and then the Sarahs of the world who book very, very far in advance and have already planned their next holiday when they're on their current holiday. So we've seen a massive split there. So then if I'm an operator or a property manager, I have within the same portfolio, within the same market, booking for tomorrow and a booking for 3 months out, and I have to be able to operationally handle that. So I think booking lead time is really important to look at. And I would say the length of stay, especially in the UK with regulations when you're looking to move into a new market, and just taking that into account as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sarah is always on holiday, isn't she, Martha? So she must spend her whole time. How many have you got teed up, Sarah? 5, 6?
That's what my mom says. Every time I talk to her, she goes, "You're always on holiday. Maybe you're going to just come back home."
I take that as a compliment, Sarah. You've got a great life always on holiday.
I think it's great. I've got all kinds of holidays coming up, so for the audience with that one.
I think to me it proves the point that Spain is one big holiday, isn't it? Anyway, that's just maybe me jealous in the UK right now. It's another debate
for another time.
I'm curious as well, Martha, now that we've picked your brain on some of the specifics on data and how to use data, what do you see as the biggest opportunity or some of the biggest opportunities in hospitality in the next, let's say, 5 years?
I think AI, and I think that will be said, like I said, on every podcast in any industries. But I think it is. We've spoken about professionalization in the industry for years. And I think it hasn't been as easy to do or as quick. And I think this is going to make it much easier to streamline things. I think it's going to help operators be super consistent, do a lot less manual work, which means they can spend time doing other things. It's obviously not going to replace humans. And I think especially in this industry, it's so kind of human-led, relationship-driven. But I think it can really speed up the professionalization of the industry.
It's a thinker, isn't it? I was thinking about this just last night. It might be that the people that succeed are the ones who find the most use of the time that they get back. So it's a bit undecided right now how you might choose to spend that time, because I think we have a lot of assumptions about our industry. One of them being that it's very, very hard to do hotel-style hospitality remotely, and I think that's up for grabs now. I really do. I think that's up for grabs if you repurpose your time based on what you've managed to liberate yourself from. Again, this might be slightly going down the rabbit hole. Don't worry, Sarah can just edit it out if she's bored of what I'm saying here. But the idea that also as well, like service offerings. So why couldn't you invest in a cleaning robot and suddenly you can do a daily maid service? All of this sort of thing about raising the standard. We talk about the whole time, how do we professionalize? It isn't that we're trying to turn our industry into the hotel industry. It's that we want to showcase what the industry can do, but be able to offer those services that make us comparable to someone who might be too nervous to book outside of a hotel, right?
Yeah, get the best bits of the hotel industry. And actually, when we were looking at the data, one thing that's also changed, like in guest behavior and what they're booking, is going from budget to more mid-scale luxury. And I think now, because it is a direct competitor for a hotel, people aren't just seeing a short-term rental or an Airbnb as like, oh, it's the cheaper option. They're seeing it as like, okay, this is a great option, but then they probably have expectations much higher. And yeah, I agree, taking the best parts of the hotel industry and then seeing, I guess, what they do with the rest of that time. as well.
Yeah, price per night is going to be reflected in that. It's a really, really good point. We used to say that, obviously, as you both know, but for our audience who don't, I got my start at One Fine Stay, and there would often be discussions about how the product we were selling was worth more than we were able to charge for it right now, because people weren't willing to take a chance on it. This was going back 12, 15 years, right? But people weren't willing to take a chance on it. So we were charging maybe as much for a 3-bedroom apartment as a hotel was charging for the most junior room on Park Lane. So it's very interesting how suddenly as the ROI grows on it. Yeah, you're right. You can then do more and more to reinvest in that experience.
Yeah, agreed.
Fab. Let's bring it back to the summit, because AirDNA has all kinds of stuff happening at the summit. As you mentioned, we've got 2 members of our C-suite coming, plus our SVP is going to be there. You're going to be there. You're going to be on stage, which is exciting. Leo and I are going to be there, of course. So
You're going to be on stage.
I'm going to be on the main. Yeah, just a shameless plug. We're going to be on the main stage, which we're super excited about. And yeah, I guess I'd love to learn more about where people can find AirDNA at the summit, and what some of the sessions are and why you're excited about them.
Yeah, I think you can find us everywhere. We've got a lot of sessions. So me and Rohit, our CEO, have a session in the morning, the Global Pulse 2026, so about the economy. That's a 15-minute slot at 10:45. Then just after that at 11:15, I'm on a panel about kind of making sense of data and decoding the guest, which is going to be with Key Data, Guesty, Price Labs, and Beyond as well, which is great. One of the ones which I think is going to be maybe the most interesting, not apart from ourselves obviously, is going to be Scott's, because he's doing a learning lab, and what we spoke about a lot in this podcast is like making it actionable. So his is going to be on like a proven playbook that he used to grow his business to 200 plus properties to grow inventory. So I think that's going to be really cool. That's at 12:15. And then Scott is on another panel at 3:35 on how to kind of thrive in a suppressed market with suppressed market conditions. And by then you'll probably be sick of us.
Not true, not possible. Yeah, impossible. I really do like the sound of the Scott session as well on the inventory growth part. I think that is always one of the hot topics of the day, isn't it? How to scale.
Yeah, and hearing it from an operator as well. I've been on a few webinars with him where he goes through the process, and I mean, you're just taking notes the whole time, which is amazing. That's exactly why people come to the summit. We have to do it. We have to throw one out there that's a little controversial, Martha. Are you ready?
Oh God, I'm nervous.
I know, sorry. I know we're friends, but I have to do it to you anyway. We have often talked on this podcast about this concept of, Airbnb bust, and what's happening with Airbnb. Are they really losing, whether that's hosts, are they confusing people? Are they losing users in favor of other types of, whether that's booking platforms or people just booking directly? So curious what the data says and what we're actually seeing, because there's a lot of hype about this Airbnb bust thing out there.
There has been for a lot of years. I think actually, Leo, the one time we did do a podcast together, we were even talking about it then, and that was maybe 2 years ago now. So yes, there's still a lot of hype about it. I think when you look at the data, it's a little bit about what I spoke about when we were talking about supply and the kind of chaotic part there was after COVID. So I think the whole Airbnb bust is like a reaction to how different it feels now than it did in 2021 and 2022. I think when you have those amazing years, they set expectations to be here. So I would say actually what we're just seeing is more of a normalization again, versus any kind of collapse or anything like that. In terms of the data, if we look at the US, it has slowed from post-pandemic highs, but like I mentioned earlier, it's set to kind of grow again in 2026. And then let's see after the World Cup as well, if people do stay on the platform, I think it will grow even more. In the UK, it's been kind of similar. I think the supply has grown even higher within the UK. So I think yeah, it still keeps surfacing this narrative. But I wouldn't say it's a collapse of Airbnb. I think it's just a normalization going back to kind of standard.
Well, Martha, thanks so much for joining us today to talk about the upcoming summit and AirDNA's role in it. We know the importance of data to property managers and hosts all over the world. It's going to help make sure that you understand what's going on in your market and understand what's a trend and what's a anomaly, so to speak. So, yeah, thank you for joining us today, Martha.
No, thank you both. It's been great. And I'll see you, Sarah, in 1 minute, but I'll see you, Leah, at the summit.
Get back to work, guys. Come on, get back to work. Stop messing around doing podcasts. And I look forward to seeing you in person, Martha. And hopefully we'll get some time with you in between all of our busy time on the stage, all of us. And to everyone at home who's enjoyed today's show, please hit like, share, subscribe in all the usual social places, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.